The Rosciad. By Charles Churchill. Unknowing and unknown, the hardy muse boldly defies all mean and partial views, with honest freedom plays the critic's part, and praises, as she censures, from the heart. Rosciad's deceased, each high-aspiring player pushed all his interest for the vacant chair. The buskined heroes of the mimic stage no longer whine in love and rant in rage. The monarch quits his throne and condescends humbly to court the favor of his friends, for pity's sake tells undeserved mishaps, and, their applause to gain, recounts his claps. Thus the victorious chiefs of ancient Rome, to win the mob, a suppliant's form assume, in pompous strain fight over the extinguished war, and show where honor bled in every scar. But though bare merit might in Rome appear, the strongest plea for favor, 'tis not here. We form our judgment in another way, and they will best succeed, who best can pay. Those who would gain the votes of British tribes, must add to force of merit, force of bribes. What can an actor give? In every age, cash hath been rudely banished from the stage. Monarchs themselves, to grief of every player, appear as often as their image there. They can't, like candidate for other seat, pour seas of wine, and mountains raise of meat. Wine! They could bribe you with the world as soon, and of a roast beef, they only know the tune. But what they have they give, could Clive do more, though for each million he had brought home 4? Shutter keeps open house at Southwark Fair, and hopes the friends of humour will be there. In Smithfield, Yeats prepares the rival treat, for those who laughter love, instead of meat. Foot, at Old House, for even Foot will be, in self-conceit, an actor, bribes with tea, which Wilkinson at second hand receives, and at the New, pours water on the leaves. The town divided, each runs several ways, as passion, humour, interest, party sways. Things of no moment, colour of the hair, shape of a leg, complexion brown or fair, a dress well chosen, or a patch misplaced, conciliate favour, or create distaste. From galleries loud peals of laughter roll, and thunder shutters praises, his so droll. Emboxed, the ladies must have something smart. Palmer. Oh! Palmer tops the jaunty part. Seated in pit, the dwarf with aching eyes looks up, and vows that Barry's out of size, whilst to 6 feet the vigorous stripling grown declares that Garrick is another Cohen. When place of judgment is by whim supplied, and our opinions have their rise in pride, when, in discoursing on each mimic elf, we praise and censure with an eye to self, all must meet friends, and Ackman bids as fair, in such a court, as Garrick, for the chair. At length agreed, all squabbles to decide, by some one judge the cause was to be tried, but this their squabbles did afresh renew, who should be judge in such a trial, who? For Johnson some, but Johnson, it was feared, would be too grave, and Sterne too gay appeared. Others for Franklin voted, but 'twas known he sickened at all triumphs but his own. For Coleman many, but the peevish tongue of prudent age found out that he was young. For Murphy some few pilfering wits declared, whilst folly clapped her hands, and wisdom stared. To mischief trained, even from his mother's womb, grown old in fraud, though yet in manhood's bloom, adopting arts by which gay villains rise, and reach the heights which honest men despise, mute at the bar, and in the senate loud, dull amongst the dullest, proudest of the proud, a pert, prim, prate of the northern race, guilt in his heart, and famine in his face, stood forth, and thrice he waved his lily hand, and thrice he twirled his tie, thrice stroked his band, at friendship's call, thus oft, with traitorous aim, men void of faith usurp faith's sacred name. At friendship's call I come, by Murphy sent, who thus by me develops his intent, but lest, transfused, the spirit should be lost, that spirit which, in storms of rhetoric tossed, bounces about, and flies like bottled beer, in his own words his own intentions hear. Thanks to my friends, but to vile fortunes born, no robes of fur these shoulders must adorn. Vain your applause, no aid from thence I draw, vain all my wit, for what is wit in law? Twice, cursed remembrance, twice I strove to gain admittance amongst the law-instructed train, who, in the Temple and Gray's Inn, prepare for clients' wretched feet the legal snare, dead to those arts which polish and refine, deaf to all worth, because that worth was mine. Twice did those blockheads startle at my name, and foul rejection gave me up to shame. To laws and lawyers then I bade adieu, and plans of far more liberal note pursue. Who will maybe adjudge my kindling breast, burns for that chair which Rosciad once possessed. Here give your votes, your interest here exert, and let success for once attend desert. with sleek appearance, and with ambling pace, and type of vacant head, with vacant face, the preterse he'll put in his modest plea, let favor speak for others, worth for me. For who, like him, his various powers could call into so many shapes, and shine in all? Who could so nobly grace the motley list, actor, inspector, doctor, botanist? Knows any one so well? Sure no one knows, at once to play, prescribe, compound, compose. Who can but woodward came, he'll slipped away, melting, like ghosts, before the rising day. With that low cunning, which in full supplies, and amply too, the place of being wise, which nature, kind, indulgent parent, gave, to qualify the blockhead for a knave, with that smooth fausset, whose appearance charms, and reason of each wholesome doubt disarms, which to the lowest depths of guile descends, by vilest means pursues the vilest ends, wears friendship's mask for purposes of spite, pawns in the day, and butchers in the night, with that malignant envy which turns pale, and sickens, even if a friend prevail, which merit and success pursues with hate, and damns the worth it cannot imitate, with the cold caution of a coward's spleen, which fears not guilt, but always seeks a screen, which keeps this maxim ever in her view, what's basely done, should be done safely too, with that dull, rooted, callous impudence, which, dead to shame and every nicer sense, never blushed, unless, in spreading vice's snares, she blundered on some virtue unawares, with all these blessings, which we seldom find, lavished by nature on one happy mind, a motley figure, of the fribble tribe, which heart can scarce conceive, or pen describe, came simpering on to ascertain whose sex 12 sage impaneled matrons would perplex. Nor male, nor female, neither, and yet both, of neuter gender, though of Irish growth, a 6-foot suckling, mincing in its gait, affected, peevish, prim, and delicate, fearful it seemed, though of athletic make, lest brutal breezes should too roughly shake its tender form, and savage motion spread over its pale cheeks the horrid manly red. Much did it talk, in its own pretty phrase, of genius and of taste, of players and of plays, much too of writings, which itself had wrote, of special merit, though of little note, for fate, in a strange humour, had decreed, that what it wrote, none but itself should read. Much, too, it chattered of dramatic laws, misjudging critics, and misplaced applause. Then, with a self-complacent, jutting air, it smiled, it smirked, it wriggled to the chair, and, with an awkward briskness not its own, looking around, and perking on the throne, triumphant seemed, when that strange savage dame, known but too few, or only known by name, plain common sense appeared, by nature there, appointed, with plain truth, to guard the chair, the pageant saw, and, blasted with her frown, to its first state of nothing melted down. Nor shall the muse, for even there the pride of this vein nothing shall be mortified, nor shall the muse, should fate ordain her rhymes, fond, pleasing thought, to live in after times, with such a trifler's name her pages blot, known be the character, the thing forgot, let it, to disappoint each future aim, live without sex, and die without a name. Cold-blooded critics, by enervate sires, scarce hammered out, when nature's feeble fires glimmered their last, whose sluggish blood, half froze, creeps labouring through the veins, whose heart never glows, with fancy-kindled heat, a servile race, who, in mere want of fault, all merit place, who blind obedience pay to ancient schools, bigots to Greece, and slaves to musty rules, with solemn consequence declared that none could judge that cause but Sophocles alone. Dupes to their fancied excellence, the crowd, obsequious to the sacred dictate, bowed. When, from amidst the throng, a youth stood forth, unknown his person, not unknown his worth, his look bespoke applause, alone he stood, alone he stemmed the mighty critic flood. He talked of ancients, as the man became, who prized our own, but envied not their fame. With noble reverence spoke of Greece and Rome, and scorned to tear the laurel from the tomb. But, more than just to other countries grown, must we turn base apostates to our own? Where do these words of Greece and Rome excel, that England may not please the ear as well? What mighty magics in the place or air, that all perfection needs must centre there? In states, let strangers blindly be preferred, in state of letters, merit should be heard. Genius is of no country, her pure ray spreads all abroad, as general as the day, foe to restraint, from place to place she flies, and may hereafter even in Holland rise. May not, to give a pleasing fancy scope, and cheer a patriot heart with patriot hope, may not some great extensive genius raise the name of Britain above Athenian praise, And, whilst brave thirst of fame his bosom warms, make England great in letters as in arms? There Maythereth, and Shakespeare's muse aspires, beyond the reach of Greece, with native fires. Mounting aloft, he wings his daring flight, whilst Sophocles below stands trembling at his height. Why should we then abroad for judges roam, when abler judges we may find at home? Happy in tragic and in comic powers, have we not Shakespeare? Is not Johnson ours? For them, your natural judges, Britons, vote. They'll judge like Britons, who like Britons wrote. He said, and conquered sense resumed her sway, and disappointed pedant stalked away. Shakespeare and Johnson, with deserved applause, joint judges were ordained to try the cause. Meantime the stranger every voice employed, to ask or tell his name. Who is it? Lloyd. Thus, when the aged friends of Job stood mute, and, tamely prudent, gave up the dispute, Elihu, with the decent warmth of youth, boldly stood forth the advocate of truth, confuted falsehood, and disabled pride, whilst baffled age stood snarling at his side. The day of trial's fixed, nor any fear, lest day of trial should be put off here. Causes but seldom for delay can call, in courts where forms are few, fees none at all. The morning came, nor find I that the sun, as he on other great events hath done, put on a brighter robe than what he wore, to go his journey in, the day before. Full in the centre of a spacious plain, on plan entirely new, where nothing vain, nothing magnificent appeared, but art, with decent modesty performed her part, rose a tribunal, from no other court, it borrowed ornament, or sought support, no juries here were packed to kill or clear, no bribes were taken, nor oaths broken here, no gowns men, partial to a client's cause, to their own purpose turned the pliant laws, each judge was true and steady to his trust, as Mansfield wise, and as old Foster just. In the first seat, in robe of various dyes, a noble wildness flashing from his eyes, sat Shakespeare, in one hand a wand he bore, for mighty wonders famed in days of yore, the other held a globe, which to his will, obedient turned and owned the master's skill, things of the noblest kind his genius drew. And looked through nature at a single view, a loose he gave to his unbounded soul, and taught new lands to rise, new seas to roll, called into being scenes unknown before, and passing nature's bounds, was something more. Next Johnson sat, in ancient learning trained, his rigid judgment fancy's flights restrained, correctly pruned each wild luxuriant thought, marked out her course, nor spared a glorious fault. The book of man he read with nicest art, and ransacked all the secrets of the heart, exerted penetration's utmost force, and traced each passion to its proper source, then, strongly marked, in liveliest colours drew, and brought each foible forth to public view. The coxcomb felt a lash in every word, and fools, hung out, their brother fools deterred. His comic humour kept the world in awe, and laughter frightened folly more than law. But, hark! The trumpet sounds, the crowd gives way, and the procession comes in just array. Now should I, in some sweet poetic line, offer up incense at Apollo's shrine, invoke the muse to quit her calm abode, and waken memory with a sleeping ode. For how shall mortal man, in mortal verse, their titles, merits, or their names rehearse? But give, kind dullness, memory and rhyme, we put off genius till another time. First, order came, with solemn step, and slow, in measured time his feet were taught to go. Behind, from time to time, he cast his eye, lest this should quit his place, that step awry. Appearance is to save his only care, so things seem right, no matter what they are. In him his parents saw themselves renewed, begotten by Sir Critic on St. Prude. Then came drum, trumpet, hautboy, fiddle, flute, next snuffer, sweeper, shifter, soldier, mute, legions of angels all in white advance, furies, all fire, come forward in a dance, pantomime figures then are brought to view, fools, hand in hand with fools, go two by two. Next came the treasurer of either house, one with full purse, the other with not a sous. Behind, a group of figures all create, set off with all the impertinence of state, by lace and feather consecrate to fame, expletive kings, and queens without a name. Here Harvard, all serene, in the same strains, loves, hates, and rages, triumphs and complains, his easy vacant face proclaimed a heart, which could not feel emotions, nor impart. With him came mighty Davies, on my life, that Davies hath a very pretty wife. statesman all over, in plots famous grown, he mouths a sentence, as curs mouth a bone. Next Holland came, with truly tragic stalk, he creeps, he flies, a hero should not walk. As if with heaven he warred, his eager eyes planted their batteries against the skies. Attitude, action, air, pause, start, sigh, groan, he borrowed, and made use of as his own. By fortune thrown on any other stage, he might, perhaps, have pleased an easy age, but now appears a copy, and no more, of something better we have seen before. The actor who would build a solid fame, must imitation's servile arts disclaim. Act from himself, on his own bottom stand, I hate even Garrick thus at second hand. Behind came King. Bred up in modest lore, bashful and young, he sought Hibernia's shore, Hibernia, famed, above every other grace, for matchless intrepidity of face. From her his features caught the generous flame, and bid defiance to all sense of shame. Tutored by her all rivals to surpass, amongst drury sons he comes, and shines in brass. Lo, Yeats! Without the least finesse of art, he gets applause I wish he'd get his part. When hot impatience is in full career, how vilely, hark ye! Hark ye, grates the ear, when active fancy from the brain is sent, and stands on tiptoe for some wished event. I hate those careless blunders, which recall suspended sense, and prove it fiction all. In characters of low and vulgar mould, where nature's coarsest features we behold, where, destitute of every decent grace, unmannered jests are blurted in your face, there Yeats with justice strict attention draws, acts truly from himself, and gains applause. But when, to please himself or charm his wife, he aims at something in politer life, when, blindly thwarting nature's stubborn plan, he treads the stage by way of gentleman, the clown, who no one touch of breeding knows, looks like Tom Errand dressed in Clincher's clothes. Fond of his dress, fond of his person grown, laughed at by all, and to himself unknown, from side to side he struts, he smiles, he prates, and seems to wonder what's become of Yeats. Woodward, endowed with various tricks of face, great master in the science of grimace, from Ireland ventures, favourite of the town, lured by the pleasing prospect of renown, a speaking harlequin, made up of whim, he twists, he twines, he tortures every limb, plays to the eye with a mere monkey's art, and leaves to sense the conquest of the heart. We laugh indeed, but, on reflection's birth, we wonder at ourselves, and curse our mirth. His walk of parts he fatally misplaced, an inclination fondly took for taste, hence of the town so often seen displayed, beau in burlesque, high life in masquerade. But when bold wits, not such as patch up plays, cold and correct, in these insipid days, some comic character, strong-featured, urge, to probability's extremest verge, where modest judgment her decree suspends, and, for a time, nor censures, nor commends, where critics can't determine on the spot, whether it is in nature found or not, there Woodward safely shall his powers exert, nor fail of favour where he shows desert, hence he in Bobadil such praises bore, such worthy praises, Kitely scarce had more. By turns transformed into all kind of shapes, constant to none, foot laughs, cries, struts, and scrapes, now in the centre, now in van or rear, the proterse shifts, board, parson, auctioneer. His strokes of humour, and his bursts of sport, are all contained in this one word distort. Doth a man stutter, look asquint, or halt? Mimics draw humour out of nature's fault, with personal defects their mirth adorn, and bang misfortunes out to public scorn. Even I, whom nature cast in hideous mould, whom, having made, she trembled to behold, beneath the load of mimicry may groan, and find that nature's errors are my own. Shadows behind of Foot and Woodward came, Wilkinson this, O'Brien was that name. Strange to relate, but wonderfully true, that even shadows have their shadows too. With not a single comic power endued, the first a mere mimic stood, the last, by nature formed to please, who shows, in Johnson's Stephen, which way genius grows, self quite put off, affects with too much art, to put on Woodward in each mangled part, adopts his shrug, his wink, his stare, nay, more, his voice, and croaks, for Woodward croaked before. When a dull copier simple grace neglects, and rests his imitation in defects, we readily forgive, but such vile arts, are double guilt in men of real parts. By nature formed in her perverse mood, with no one requisite of art endued, next Jackson came observe that settled glare, which better speaks a puppet than a player, List to that voice did ever discord hear, sounds so well fitted to her untuned ear? When to enforce some very tender part, the right hand slips by instinct on the heart, his soul, of every other thought bereft, is anxious only where to place the left. He sobs and pants to soothe his weeping spouse, to soothe his weeping mother, turns and bows, awkward, embarrassed, stiff, without the skill of moving gracefully, or standing still, one leg, as if suspicious of his brother, desirous seems to run away from the other. Some errors, handed down from age to age, plead custom's force, and still possess the stage. That's vile, should we a parent's faults adore, and err, because our fathers erred before? If, inattentive to the author's mind, some actors made the jest they could not find, if by low tricks they marred fair nature's mean, and blurred the graces of the simple scene, shall we, if reason rightly is employed, not see their faults, or seeing, not avoid? When Falstaff stands detected in a lie, why, without meaning, rolls love's glassy eye? Why? There's no cause, at least no cause we know, it was the fashion 20 years ago. Fashion. A word which knaves and fools may use, their knavery and folly to excuse. To copy beauties, forfeits all pretense, to fame to copy faults, is want of sense. Yet, though in some particulars he fails, some few particulars, where mode prevails, if in these hallowed times, when, sober, sad, all gentlemen are melancholy mad, when 'tis not deemed so great a crime by half, to violate a vestal as to laugh, rude mirth may hope, presumptuous, to engage, an act of toleration for the stage, and courtiers will, like reasonable creatures, suspend vain fashion, and unscrew their features. Old Falstaff, played by love, shall please once more, and humour set the audience in a roar. Actors I've seen, and of no vulgar name, who, being from one part possessed of fame, whether they are to laugh, cry, whine, or bawl, still introduce that favourite part in all. Here, love, be cautious never be thou betrayed, to call in that wag Falstaff's dangerous aid. Like Goths of old, however he seems a friend, he'll seize that throne you wish him to defend. In a peculiar mould by humour cast, for Falstaff framed himself the first and last, he stands aloof from all, maintains his state, and scorns, like Scotsmen, to assimilate. Vain all disguise too plain we see the trick, though the knight wears the weeds of Dominic, and Boniface disgraced, betrays the smack, in Anno Domini, of Falstaff's sack. Arms crossed, brows bent, eyes fixed, feet marching slow, a band of malcontents with spleen overflow, wrapped in conceit's impenetrable fog, which pride, like Phoebus, draws from every bog. They curse the managers, and curse the town, whose partial favour keeps such merit down. But if some man, more hardy than the rest, should dare attack these gnatlings in their nest, at once they rise with impotence of rage, whet their small stings, and buzz about the stage. 'Tis breach of privilege. Shall any dare to arm satiric truth against a player? Prescriptive rights we plead, time out of mind. Actors, unlashed themselves, may lash mankind. What? Shall opinion then, of nature free, and liberal as the vagrant air, agree, to rust in chains like these, imposed by things, which, less than nothing, ape the pride of kings? No, though half poets with half players join, to curse the freedom of each honest line, though rage and malice dim their faded cheek, what the muse freely thinks, she'll freely speak, with just disdain of every paltry sneer, stranger alike to flattery and fear, in purpose fixed, and to herself a rule, public contempt shall wait the public fool. Austin would always glisten in French silks, Ackman would Norris be, and Packer, Wilkes, for who, like Ackman, can with humour please, who can, like Packer, charm with sprightly ease? Higher than all the rest, see Brandsby strut, a mighty Gulliver in Lilliput. Ludicrous nature, which at once could show, a man so very high, so very low. If I forget thee, Blakes, or if I say aught hurtful, may I never see thee play. Let critics, with a supercilious air, decry thy various merit, and declare, Frenchman is still at top, but scorn that rage, which, in attacking thee, attacks the age. French follies, universally embraced, at once provoke our mirth, and form our taste. Long, from a nation ever hardly used, at random censured, wantonly abused, have Britons drawn their sport, with partial view, formed general notions from the rascal few, condemned a people, as for vices known, which from their country banished, seek our own. At length, however, the slavish chain is broke, And sense, awakened, scorns her ancient yoke. Taught by thee, moody, we now learn to raise mirth from their foibles, from their virtues, praise. Next came the legion which our summer bays, from alleys, here and there, contrived to raise, flushed with vast hopes, and certain to succeed, with wits who cannot write, and scarce can read. Veterans no more support the rotten cause, no more from Eliot's worth they reap applause, each on himself determines to rely, be Yeats disbanded, and let Eliot fly. Never did players so well an author fit, to nature dead, and foes declared to wit. So loud each tongue, so empty was each head, so much they talked, so very little said, so wondrous dull, and yet so wondrous vain, at once so willing, and unfit to reign, that reason swore, nor would the oath recall, their mighty master's soul informed them all. As one with various disappointments sad, whom dullness only kept from being mad, apart from all the rest great Murphy came, common to fools and wits, the rage of fame. What though the sons of nonsense hail him sire, auditor, author, manager, and squire, his restless soul's ambition stops not there, to make his triumphs perfect, dub him player. In person tall, a figure formed to please, if symmetry could charm deprived of ease, when motionless he stands, we all approve, what pity 'tis the thing was made to move. His voice, in one dull, deep, unvaried sound, seems to break forth from caverns underground. From hollow chest the low sepulchral note, unwilling heaves, and struggles in his throat. Could authors butchered give an actor grace, all must to him resign the foremost place. When he attempts, in some one favourite part, to ape the feelings of a manly heart, his honest features the disguise defy, and his face loudly gives his tongue the lie. Still in extremes, he knows no happy mean, or raving mad, or stupidly serene. In cold-wrought scenes, the lifeless actor flags, in passion, tears the passion into rags. Can none remember? Yes, I know all must, when in the moor he ground his teeth to dust, when over the stage he folly's standard bore, whilst common sense stood trembling at the door. How few are found with real talents blessed! Fewer with nature's gifts contented rest. Man from his sphere eccentric starts astray, all hunt for fame, but most mistake the way. Bred at St. Omer's to the shuffling trade, the hopeful youth a Jesuit might have made, with various reading stored his empty skull, learned without sense, and venerably dull, or, at some banker's desk, like many more, content to tell that 2 and 2 make 4, his name had stood in city annals fair, and prudent dullness marked him for a mayor. What, then, could tempt thee, in a critic age, such blooming hopes to forfeit on a stage? Could it be worth thy wondrous waste of pains, to publish to the world thy lack of brains? Or might not reason even to thee have shown, thy greatest praise had been to live unknown? Yet let not vanity like thine despair, fortune makes folly her peculiar care. A vacant throne, high placed in Smithfield, view. To sacred dullness and her firstborn due, thither with haste in happy hour repair, thy birthright claim, nor fear a rival there. Shutter himself shall own thy juster claim, and venal ledgers puff their Murphy's name, whilst Vaughan, or Dapper, call him which you will, shall blow the trumpet, and give out the bill. Their rule, secure from critics and from sense, nor once shall genius rise to give offence, eternal peace shall bless the happy shore, and little factions break thy rest no more. From Covent Garden crowds promiscuous go, whom the muse knows not, nor desires to know, veterans they seemed, but knew of arms no more, than if, till that time, arms they never bore, like Westminster militia trained to fight, they scarcely knew the left hand from the right. Ashamed among such troops to show the head, their chiefs were scattered, and their heroes fled. Sparks at his glass sat comfortably down, to separate frown from smile, and smile from frown. Smith, the genteel, the airy, and the smart, Smith was just gone to school to say his part. Ross, a misfortune which we often meet, was fast asleep at dear Statira's feet. Statira, with her hero to agree, stood on her feet as fast asleep as he. Macklin, who largely deals in half-formed sounds, who wantonly transgresses nature's bounds, whose acting's hard, affected, and constrained, whose features, as each other they disdained, at variance set, inflexible and coarse, never know the workings of united force, never kindly soften to each other's aid, nor show the mingled powers of light and shade, no longer for a thankless stage concerned, to worthier thoughts his mighty genius turned, harangued, gave lectures, made each simple elf almost as good a speaker as himself, whilst the whole town, mad with mistaken zeal, an awkward rage for elocution feel, dulcets and grave divines his praise proclaim, and join with Sheridan's their Macklin's name. Shutter, who never cared a single pin, whether he left out nonsense, or put in, who aimed at wit, though, levelled in the dark, the random arrow seldom hit the mark, at Islington, all by the placid stream, where city swains in lap of dullness dream, where quiet as her strains their strains do flow, that all the patron by the bards may know, secret as night, with Rolt's experienced aid, the plan of future operations laid, projected schemes the summer months to cheer, and spin out happy folly through the year. But think not, though these dastard chiefs are fled, that Covent Garden troops shall want a head, Harlequin comes their chief. See from afar, the hero seated in fantastic car. Wedded to novelty, his only arms are wooden swords, wands, talismans, and charms. On one side folly sits, by some called fun, and on the other his arch-patron, Lun. Behind, for liberty athirst in vain, sense, helpless captive, drags the galling chain. 6 rude misshapen beasts the chariot draw, whom reason loathes, and nature never saw. Monsters with tails of ice, and heads of fire, Gorgons, and hydras, and chimeras dire. Each was bestrode by full as monstrous wight, giant, dwarf, genius, elf, hermaphrodite. The town, as usual, met him in full cry. The town, as usual, knew no reason why, but fashion so directs, and moderns raise, on fashion's mouldering base their transient praise. Next, to the field a band of females draw, their force, for Britain owns no Salic law, just to their worth, we female rights admit, nor bar their claim to empire or to wit. First giggling, plotting chambermaids arrive, hoydens and romps, led on by General Clive. In spite of outward blemishes, she shone, for humour famed, and humour all her own, easy, as if at home, the stage she trod, nor sought the critic's praise, nor feared his rod, original in spirit and in ease, she pleased by hiding all attempts to please, no comic actress ever yet could raise, on humour's base, more merit or more praise. With all the native vigour of 16, among the merry troop conspicuous seen, see lively Pope advance, in jig, and trip, carina, cherry, honeycomb, and snip, not without art, but yet to nature true, she charms the town with humour just, yet new, cheered by her promise, we the less deplore, the fatal time when Olive shall be no more. Lo! Vincent comes. With simple grace arrayed, she laughs at paltry arts, and scorns parade, nature through her is by reflection shown, whilst Gay once more knows Polly for his own. Talk not to me of diffidence and fear, I see it all, but must forgive it here, defects like these, which modest terrors cause, from impudence itself extort applause. Candour and reason still take virtue's part, we love even foibles in so good a heart. Let Tommy Oren, with usual pomp of style, whose chief, whose only merits to compile, who, meanly pilfering here and there a bit, deals music out as Murphy deals out wit, publish proposals, laws for taste prescribe, and chaunt the praise of an Italian tribe, let him reverse kind nature's first decrees, and teach even Brent a method not to please, but never shall a truly British age bear a vile race of eunuchs on the stage, the boasted works called national in vain, if one Italian voice pollutes the strain. Where tyrants rule, and slaves with joy obey, let slavish minstrels pour the enervate lay, to Britain's far more noble pleasures spring, in native notes whilst Beard and Vincent sing. Might figure give a title unto fame, what rival should with Yeats dispute her claim? But justice may not partial trophies raise, nor sink the actresses in the woman's praise. Still hand in hand her words and actions go, and the heart feels more than the features show, for, through the regions of that beauteous face, we no variety of passions trace, dead to the soft emotions of the heart, no kindred softness can those eyes impart, the brow, still fixed in sorrow's sullen frame, void of distinction, marks all parts the same. What's a fine person, or a beauteous face, unless deportment gives them decent grace? Blessed with all other requisites to please, some want the striking elegance of ease, the curious eye their awkward movement tires, they seem like puppets led about by wires. Others, like statues, in one posture still, give great ideas of the workman's skill, wondering, his art we praise the more we view, and only grieve he gave not motion to. Weak of themselves are what we beauties call, it is the manner which gives strength to all, this teaches every beauty to unite, and brings them forward in the noblest light. Happy in this, behold, amidst the throng, with transient gleam of grace, heart sweeps along. If all the wonders of external grace, a person finely turned, a mold of face, where union rare expressions lively force, with beauty's softest magic holds discourse, attract the eye, if feelings, void of art, rouse the quick passions, and inflame the heart, if music, sweetly breathing from the tongue, captives the ear, bride must not pass unsung. When fear, which rank ill nature terms conceit, by time and custom conquered, shall retreat, when judgment, tutored by experience sage, shall shoot abroad, and gather strength from age, when heaven, in mercy, shall the stage release, from the dull slumbers of a still life peace, when some stale flower, disgraceful to the walk, which long hath hung, though withered, on the stalk, shall kindly drop, then bride shall make her way, and merit find a passage to the day, brought into action, she at once shall raise her own renown, and justify our praise. Formed for the tragic scene, to grace the stage, with rival excellence of love and rage, mistress of each soft art, with matchless skill, to turn and win the passions as she will, to melt the heart with sympathetic woe, awake the sigh, and teach the tear to flow, to put on frenzy's wild, distracted glare, and freeze the soul with horror and despair, with just desert enrolled in endless fame, conscious of worth superior, Cibber came. When poor Alicia's maddening brains are racked, and strongly imaged griefs her mind distract, struck with her grief, I catch the madness too, my brain turns round, the headless trunk I view. The roof cracks, shakes, and falls, new horrors rise, and reason buried in the ruin lies. Nobly disdainful of each slavish art, she makes her first attack upon the heart, pleased with the summons, it receives her laws, and all is silence, sympathy, applause. But when, by fond ambition drawn aside, giddy with praise, and puffed with female pride, she quits the tragic scene, and, in pretence, to comic merit, breaks down nature's fence, I scarcely can believe my ears or eyes, or find out Cibber through the dark disguise. Pritchard, by nature for the stage designed, in person graceful, and in sense refined, her art as much as nature's friend became, her voice as free from blemish as her fame, who knows so well in majesty to please. Attempered with the graceful charms of ease? When, Congreve's favoured pantomime to grace, she comes a captive queen, of Moorish race, when love, hate, jealousy, despair, and rage, with wildest tumults in her breast engage, still equal to herself is Zara seen, her passions are the passions of a queen. When she to murder whets the timorous thane, I feel ambition rush through every vein, persuasion hangs upon her daring tongue, my heart grows flint, and every nerve's new strung. In comedy nay, there, cries critic, hold, Pritchard's for comedy too fat and old, who can, with patience, bear the grey coquette, or force a laugh with overgrown Juliet. Her speech, look, action, humour, all are just, but then, her age and figure give disgust. Are foibles, then, and graces of the mind, in real life, to size or age confined? Do spirits flow, and is good breeding placed, in any set circumference of waist? As we grow old, doth affectation cease, or gives not age new vigour to caprice? If in originals these things appear, why should we bar them in the copy here? The nice punctilio mongers of this age, the grand minute reformers of the stage, slaves to propriety of every kind, some standard measure for each part should find, which, when the best of actors shall exceed, let it devolve to one of smaller breed. All actors, too, upon the back should bear certificate of birth, time, when, place, where, for how can critics rightly fix their worth, unless they know the minute of their birth? An audience, too, deceived, may find, too late, that they have clapped an actor out of date. Figure, I own, at first may give offence, and harshly strike the eye's too curious sense, but when perfections of the mind break forth, humour's chaste sallies, judgment's solid worth, when the pure genuine flame by nature taught, springs into sense and every action's thought, before such merit all objections fly, Pritchard's genteel, and Garrick's 6 feet high. Oft have I, Pritchard, seen thy wondrous skill, confessed thee great, but find thee greater still, that worth, which shone in scattered rays before, collected now, breaks forth with double power. The jealous wife, on that thy trophies raise, inferior only to the author's praise. From Dublin, famed in legends of romance, for mighty magic of enchanted lance, with which her heroes armed, victorious prove, and, like a flood, rush over the land of love, Mo Sop and Barry came names never designed, by fate in the same sentence to be joined. raised by the breath of popular acclaim, they mounted to the pinnacle of fame. There the weak brain, made giddy with the height, spurred on the rival chiefs to mortal fight. Thus sportive boys, around some basin's brim, behold the pipe-drawn bladders circling swim. But if, from lungs more potent, there arise two bubbles of a more than common size, eager for honor, they for fight prepare. Bubble meets bubble, and both sink to air. Moe's sop attached to military plan still kept his eye fixed on his right-hand man, whilst the mouth measures words with seeming skill. The right hand labors, and the left lies still, for he, resolved on scripture grounds to go, what the right doth, the left hand shall not know. With studied impropriety of speech, he soars beyond the hackney critic's reach, to epithets allots emphatic state, whilst principles, ungraced, like lackeys wait, in ways first trodden by himself excels, and stands alone in indeclinable conjunction, preposition, adverb join, to stamp new vigor on the nervous line. In monosyllables his thunders roll. He, she, it, and we, ye, they, fright the soul. In person taller than the common size, behold where Barry draws admiring eyes. When laboring passions, in his bosom pent, convulsive rage, and struggling he for vent, spectators, with imagined terrors warm, anxious expect the bursting of the storm, but, all unfit in such a pile to dwell, his voice comes forth, like echo from her cell, to swell the tempest needful aid denies, and all adown the stage in feeble murmurs dies. What man, like Barry, with such pains, can err, in elocution, action, character? What man could give, if Barry was not here, such well-applauded tenderness to Lear? Who else can speak so very, very fine, that sense may kindly end with every line? Some dozen lines before the ghost is there, behold him for the solemn scene prepare, see how he frames his eyes, poises each limb, puts the whole body into proper trim, from whence we learn, with no great stretch of art, 5 lines hence comes a ghost, and, ha! A start. When he appears most perfect, still we find something which jars upon and hurts the mind. Whatever lights upon a part are thrown, we see too plainly they are not his own. No flame from nature ever yet he caught, nor knew a feeling which he was not taught. He raised his trophies on the base of art, and conned his passions, as he conned his part. Quin, from afar, lured by the scent of fame, a stage Leviathan, put in his claim, pupil of Betterton and Booth. Alone, sullen he walked, and deemed the chair his own, for how should moderns, mushrooms of the day, who never those masters knew, know how to play? Grey-bearded veterans, who, with partial tongue, extol the times when they themselves were young, who, having lost all relish for the stage, see not their own defects, but lash the age, received, with joyful murmurs of applause, their darling chief, and lined his favourite cause. Far be it from the candid muse to tread, insulting over the ashes of the dead, but, just a living merit, she maintains, and dares the test, whilst Garrick's genius reigns. Ancients in vain endeavour to excel, happily praised, if they could act as well. But, though prescription's force we disallow, nor to antiquity submissive bow, though we deny imaginary grace, founded on accidents of time and place, yet real worth of every growth shall bear due praise, nor must we, Quin, forget thee there. His words bore sterling weight, nervous and strong, in manly tides of sense they rolled along. Happy in art, he chiefly had pretence to keep up numbers, yet not forfeit sense. No actor ever greater heights could reach, in all the labored artifice of speech. Speech? Is that all? And shall an actor found an universal fame on partial ground? Parrots themselves speak properly by rote, and, in 6 months, my dog shall howl by note. I laugh at those who, when the stage they tread, neglect the heart, to compliment the head, with strict propriety their cares confined, to weigh out words, while passion halts behind, to syllable dissectors they appeal, allow them accent, cadence, fools may feel, but, spite of all the criticizing elves, those who would make us feel, must feel themselves. His eyes, in gloomy socket taught to roll, proclaimed the sullen habit of his soul. Heavy and phlegmatic he trod the stage, too proud for tenderness, too dull for rage. When Hector's lovely widow shines in tears, or Rose gay rake dependent virtue jeers, with the same cast of features he is seen, to chide the libertine, and court the queen. From the tame scene, which without passion flows, with just desert his reputation rose, nor less he pleased, when, on some surly plan, he was, at once, the actor and the man. In brute he shone unequalled, all agree, Garrick's not half so great a brute as he. When Cato's labored scenes are brought to view, with equal praise the actor labored too, for still you'll find, trace passions to their root, small difference twixt the stoic and the brute. In fancied scenes, as in life's real plan, he could not, for a moment, sink the man. In whatever cast his character was laid, self still, like oil, upon the surface played. Nature, in spite of all his skill, crept in, Horatio, Dorax, Falstaff, still it was Quin. Next follows Sheridan. A doubtful name, as yet unsettled in the rank of fame, this, fondly lavish in his praises grown, gives him all merit, that allows him none, between them both, will steer the middle course, nor, loving praise, rob judgment of her force. Just his conceptions, natural and great, his feelings strong, his words enforced with weight. Were speech famed Quin himself to hear him speak, envy would drive the colour from his cheek, but step-dame nature, niggard of her grace, denied the social powers of voice and face. Fixed in one frame of features, glare of eye, passions, like chaos, in confusion lie, in vain the wonders of his skill are tried, to form distinctions nature hath denied. His voice no touch of harmony admits, irregularly deep, and shrill by fits. The two extremes appear like man and wife, coupled together for the sake of strife. His actions always strong, but sometimes such, that candour must declare he acts too much. Why must impatience fall 3 paces back? Why paces 3 return to the attack? Why is the right leg, too, forbid to stir, unless in motion semicircular? Why must the hero with the nailer vie, and hurl the close clenched fist at nose or eye? In Royal John, with Philip angry groan, I thought he would have knocked poor Davies down. Inhuman tyrant! Was it not a shame, to fright a king so harmless and so tame? But, spite of all defects, his glories rise, and art, by judgment formed, with nature vies. Behold him sound the depth of Hubert's soul, whilst in his own contending passions roll, view the whole scene, with critic judgment scan, and then deny him merit, if you can. Where he falls short, 'tis nature's fault alone, where he succeeds, the merit's all his own. Last Garrick came. Behind him throng a train, of snarling critics, ignorant as vain. One finds out his of stature somewhat low, your hero always should be tall, you know, true natural greatness all consists in height. Produce your voucher, critic. Sergeant Kite. Another can't forgive the paltry arts, by which he makes his way to shallow hearts, mere pieces of finesse, traps for applause, a vaunt. Unnatural start, affected pause. For me, by nature formed to judge with phlegm, I can't acquit by wholesale, nor condemn. The best things carried to excess are wrong, the start may be too frequent, pause too long, but, only used in proper time and place, severest judgment must allow them grace. If bunglers, formed on imitation's plan, just in the way that monkeys mimic man, their copied scene with mangled art's disgrace, and pause and start with the same vacant face, we join the critic laugh, those tricks we scorn, which spoil the scenes they mean them to adorn. But when, from nature's pure and genuine source, these strokes of acting flow with generous force, when in the features all the soul's portrayed, and passions, such as Garrick's, are displayed, to me they seem from quickest feelings caught, each start is nature, and each pause is thought. When reason yields to passion's wild alarms, and the whole state of man is up in arms, what but a critic could condemn the player, for pausing here, when cool sense pauses there? Whilst, working from the heart, the fire I trace, and mark it strongly flaming to the face, whilst in each sound I hear the very man, I can't catch words, and pity those who can. Let wits, like spiders, from the tortured brain, find draw the critic web with curious pain. The gods, a kindness I with thanks must pay, have formed me of a coarser kind of clay, not stung with envy, nor with spleen diseased, a poor dull creature, still with nature pleased, hence to thy praises, Garrick, I agree, and, pleased with nature, must be pleased with thee. Now might I tell how silence reigned throughout, and deep attention hushed the rabble rout, how every claimant, tortured with desire, was pale as ashes, or as red as fire, but loose to fame, the muse more simply acts, rejects all flourish, and relates mere facts. The judges, as the several parties came, with temper heard, with judgment weighed each claim, and, in their sentence happily agreed, in name of both, great Shakespeare thus decreed, if manly sense, if nature linked with art, If thorough knowledge of the human heart, if powers of acting vast and unconfined, if fewest faults with greatest beauties joined, if strong expression, and strange powers which lie within the magic circle of the eye, if feelings which few hearts like his can know, and which no face so well as his can show, deserve the preference Garrick. Take the chair, nor quit it till thou place an equal there. Thanks for watching the channel. If you liked the video, please hit the like button. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing. Or if you would like to support the channel, please visit the link in the description to visit our Patreon page. Like the pictures in the video? Visit the link in the description to see more. Thanks again for watching.